Today we're going to talk about the different kinds of sources available and which are most appropriate for your project. We will focus on the credibility of sources and defining popular, scholarly, and peer-reviewed sources. Knowing who the author is, when it was written, and how objective it is determines the credibility of a source. Blogs, personal websites, and websites of unknown origin tend to be less credible. They offer little information on what resources and research were used. They also often make it more difficult to tell what kinds of author biases might be involved. Publications by advocacy groups are often subjective and written to persuade readers to agree with a specific position. Popular magazines, daily news, and general audience books might contain useful information, but most do not cite the sources and research they use. Being written for the general public, they are also more general in nature. High-quality mainstream media is moderately reliable in that some amount of research and editing have been done. From print media, authors and citations may be included. There may still be some bias involved, so be cautious with how you use these sources. Books by experts, published by non-academic publishers, and some government websites both involve experts who have done research and often cite their sources. But they have not gone through the peer review process. Peer-reviewed articles, journals, and books by scholars published by academic publishers are the most credible sources available. They have been through the peer review process, and they are by scholars who are experts in their field, and their research and writing have been scrutinized by other experts in the field. These kinds of publications strive for objective research and writing. Now let's look at some specific kinds of sources. Magazines and newspapers are written by paid journalists who tend to be generalists, not subject-specific experts. These sources are also for the general public and tend to offer more general information using everyday language and do not tend to list the sources consulted. Scholarly sources are written by researchers and experts in their field. These sources are intended for other researchers and scholars as a means to share their research findings with other experts. Information is more specific and uses specialized vocabulary with clearly cited sources included. The most common type of scholarly source is a peer-reviewed article or book. The peer review process ensures that the published book or article has followed appropriate research methods, consulted the necessary sources, and presented the information in an authoritative manner. To publish a peer-reviewed resource, authors submit their manuscript to the publisher or journal editor. The editor determines if the manuscript is ready for peer review. If not, the manuscript is rejected. If it is, the editor sends the manuscript without the author's name to 2 to 3 experts in the field who review the manuscript. The reviewers will either approve the manuscript for publication with revisions or reject it. If the manuscript is rejected, the author will submit it to another journal or publisher. If the manuscript is accepted, the author will revise the manuscript based on the reviewer's comments, and the manuscript will be published. Thank you for joining me to discuss scholarly and popular sources. Remember, if you are looking for facts, evidence to support your thesis, or research-based information, stick with credible to very credible sources, such as peer-reviewed articles and books. As always, be mindful of who wrote the source, where and when it was published, and what audience it is intended for. If you have questions or need help, email us at libstaff@carroll.edu.